Today I want to talk about what I would do if I had to go back and design my practice routine for the first time when I started making the shift from practicing classical music to improvising, learning harmony, and playing other styles beyond classical music. First of all, the first thing I would have done is stop doing classical scales and etudes. And instead, I would replace classical scales and etudes with 15 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on how much you practice, but let's just say 15 minutes of improvised scale exercises and etudes. When I do improvised scale exercises and etudes, they still speak to technical issues, right? And I practice them with those technical issues in mind. And so that's part of why I would replace classical scales and exercises, because they're the same every time. And they only hit those technical problems from a limited set of ways. So when I improvise scale exercises and etudes, I'm able to address those technical issues, but I'm able to get the additional benefits of improvisation, and which is a creative process. It builds confidence. I'm developing my own creative language. And also it is giving me the added benefit of learning the technique in some ways more, because I'm creating new problems all the time. I'm creating my own problems and then needing to solve those technical problems. So that's number one. Stop doing classical etudes and scales and replace them with improvised scale exercises and etudes. There's only three parts. So the second part is that, again, we're going to just use 15 minutes. You can double that up if you want, but I would do 15 minutes of improvisation over what I'm going to call elemental musical forms, simple musical forms, instead of trying to improvise over songs and or progressions or grooves that I wasn't ready for. I'm going to say it again. 15 minutes of improvisation over elemental musical forms instead of trying to play over songs, progressions, or beats and grooves that I was not ready for. So someone asked me, what are elemental musical forms? And again, I will define them by saying what they're not. They are not trying to play over a song that I have not learned inside and out yet. We want to save that for learning. When we're creating, we want to be creating with material that is absolutely comfortable for us. So the mistake that I see so many people make, and that I used to make, was I would try to be improvising over songs or tempos or chord progressions that I had not yet sufficiently learned. So instead, I use elemental musical forms. Elemental musical forms they're like, I think of them like yoga poses in a way, almost. If you think about like yoga poses, like one yoga pose is standing mountain. And you're literally standing on 2 feet, and you're pulling your shoulders back. You're trying to straighten your spine, and you're breathing, right? So to use an analogy in a musical form, I might play whole notes at a specific tempo. Like, I'll sing it. La do do. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's an elemental form. It's just playing whole notes at a specific tempo. And I might add something to that. Like, for example, I might do that in a certain key signature, such as in the key signature shared by A major, or I might do it with 12 tones. This is just one example of an elemental form, of a simple form that you can improvise over that doesn't require you to be learning or chasing material that's too hard for you. And that's the mistake that so many people make. Now, for number three, I would devote 15 minutes, or you can double it up, 30 if you want, to internalizing a very small amount of harmonic or rhythmic material. And by internalizing, what I mean, I guess, is memorizing and or learning. It's really important that it be a small amount of material. So if I'm trying to internalize, let's say, a scale, like the A harmonic minor scale, then I have a lot of ways that I will try to learn and memorize all the patterns and being able to play randomly within that scale. I have a bunch of exercises that I do for that and that I teach. Or I could be trying to internalize a chord, one chord, or the progression between two chords. So again, it's really important that it be a small amount of harmonic or rhythmic material. Could be working on playing different subdivisions over a particular groove, over a particular time signature at a particular tempo. I have a lot of exercises and sequences of when to program these different exercises to save time when we're learning material. And it's really important that we have a small amount that we return back to. Instead of, for example, what I used to do and what I see a lot of people trying to do, which is like, practicing 100 scales, literally, like when you count up all the keys or practicing 100 arpeggios and these sorts of things. It doesn't stick. And I think this has been proven by a lot of people in a lot of disciplines outside of music. Like when you're trying to memorize, when you're trying to learn something, you have to have a small enough amount of material and you have to come back to it over and over again. Now, the nice thing is when you break down and you say, like, let's say that you're working on the A minor scale, but you decide, okay, 15 minutes a day, I'm going to work on an A minor scale in a way that makes sense, that's common sense, that, that promotes learning, that promotes retention, right? So really discrete and common sense exercises, and then returning to them for let's say even maybe 7 days for 15 minutes. Thing is, once you've got it forever. So those are the three things that I would do. And here's and here are some of the reasons why. Because practicing traditional scales and etudes and or playing repertoire, right? Practicing repertoire, memorized melodies, could be even fiddle tunes. If you do that for an hour, or if you do that for an hour and a half, you're beat. You're tired, right? And so this is what happens a lot of times for classically trained players, and I would say for fiddle trained players as well, is we spend all this time practicing kind of the way we know how to practice. Then we're tired. We don't have energy to add in learning harmony, learning groove, learning song forms, and or practicing improvisation. So it just doesn't happen. So this way we are integrating it from the beginning of our practice. For the first 2/3 of our practice, incorporate improvisation. The last third is just focused on learning or internalizing a small amount of material. And it doesn't have to be in that order. It could be in a different order. Also, for all three of these components that I mentioned, you can be, and I do, focus on technique at the same time. Like, there's no reason during any of these things that you cannot be intentionally nurturing or developing or improving your intonation, your bow distribution, bow control, vibrato, shifting, you name it. Any technical problem in the left hand, in the right hand, whatever it might be. And I would say that this would be true also for non-bowed string, for instruments that are not string instruments. I believe this would hold true for piano, saxophone, voice, any instrument. It's really a different way of looking at musicianship. We are prioritizing improvisation, and we are prioritizing internalizing harmonic information and rhythmic information in the way that not only jazz musicians, but many functional musicians and many styles of music. It's a musicianship that does not have so many gaps. And at any time, if we want to focus more on technique, we can. If at any time we want to focus more on the creative process, we can. If at any time we want to focus on internalizing harmonic or rhythmic information, we can. So really, incorporating improvisation into your practice and also separating that from internalizing exercises for learning harmony and rhythm will more than cover your technical goals, and it accelerates growth for at least two reasons. Number one, we accomplish more in less time with our practice. And number two, I would say because we develop the thing that is hard for us rather than just repeating things that we've done over and over the same way. So if you're a traditional practicer, if you're a classical practicer, if you've always practiced one way as a classical musician, or if you've always practiced, let's say, fiddle music, and you've always just played melodies that way, and you want to make the shift to incorporate improvisation and to internalize harmony, internalize groove, to be a more functional musician, and to experience more positive and productive practice, consider reaching out to me and working with me in a couple different ways that you can do it. First of all, twice per year, I run my summer and winter Zoom course. And this is 7 weeks where you can come and you can play for 90 minutes on Zoom. You'll be guided by me the entire time. You'll be muted on your side. You're part of a group class. And I will prompt you with all of these exercises that I've been using, that I've developed. This is happening every summer and every winter. So if you go to christianhouse.com and look under courses, you can find where to sign up. When this, as of now, when this video is being made, we've got a few weeks until our summer course is happening in July. This is a great course, and it's good for people that are ultra professionals, like virtuosos. I've had people of the top level performers in all this ones be a part of this. It's also great for amateurs. I've had people with as low as 2 years playing experience be a part of this class. Part of the reason it works for everybody is because it's like a yoga class where I give you modifications, the ability to modify things according to your technical level and your theoretical knowledge as well. So that is the Zoom course. I highly recommend it. There's also a way at my website, christianhouse.com, if you look for Creative Strings Academy, it's probably under courses as well. There's a way for you to sign up and take a free private lesson with me, 30-minute private lesson. I give one to all new students. Sign up for that. We often have promotions. You can download 8 of my books when you sign up for just for the trial. So a couple different ways to learn more, and always remember that I've got play along videos on YouTube for free as well. So check those out. Let me know if this resonated for you. Feel free to reach out to me. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment below. And if you're listening on the podcast, I think you might be able to leave a comment on the podcast. And I'm always happy to hear from you at chris@christianhouse.com. I want to thank our longtime sponsors of the Creative Strings podcast, Electric Violin Shop. Thank you guys so much. And for anybody that ever has questions about electric strings, all things electric strings, reach out, electricviolinshop.com. Call them at their phone number during business hours, and you will get a human that will speak to you and answer all of your questions about pickups, amplifiers, electric instruments, accessories, effects, pedals, loops, and more. Call them and tell them I sent you. All right, thanks a lot. Stay good. Happy practicing.